we have the same message as law enforcement. We want to keep you safe, alive, and out of the prisons, and we will not tolerate violence in our community anymore.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of Inside JSO, where we take you inside the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, show you our operations, how we work to protect our city and keep the community safe. And when we talk about keeping the community safe, there's a lot that we do with outreach and support. You might have seen a little bit here and there, but today we're going to go in depth with our friends who are out there on the streets every day to reduce the crime, to reduce those numbers. So we start with Pastor Garland Scott, who's in charge of this operation and has been really doing a lot of work. Dream team that you've assembled here, including Miss Brenda Kelly, out there working hard to make sure that we reduce crime by outreaching and giving that support. And then a real great friend of the program who's very, very involved, Pastor Russell Williams. So Garland, I want to talk to you about this. You have quite the story. There was a certain news reporter that was the first person to tell your story back in the day.
Vic, Lukey, Vic.
Something like that, yeah.
And Vic Michelucci.
There you go, yeah. So I had the privilege before I was actually at JSO to interview you, and I know it took some time and it took some convincing. We had to build a little bit of rapport and mutual understanding.
Yes, sir.
And once that trust was there, you were able to share the story. And let me tell you, I mean, as somebody that reported in this city for more than a decade, I had no idea about all of the things that go on behind the scenes. We see the police cars, we see the lights, we see the badges, we see the operations, but we don't necessarily see the outreach and support strategy that literally is saving lives. Tell us the nexus of how this started, because I know that you have quite the resume.
Well, it started with a guy named T.K. Waters back in 2017, was assigned by Sheriff Mike Williams to set up a group violence intervention unit. And they brought me on to help reduce violence through something called customized notifications, where we go door to door to those most likely to kill or most likely to be killed, or those driving the most violence, gun violence. And in doing that, we were able to give them an opportunity to get out of that life. Or the alternative was to go to jail if you don't get your life together. And we've had great success. It took some building, Vic. Sheriff loves to say this, and I'm with him. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It takes time. That's why we don't even like to use the word program, because programs come with different administrations. And I really thank God for the sheriff that he kept this along, that it's a strategy.
Yep.
You know, that we're going to keep doing it one life at a time, and it's going really well.
So the sheriff, then assistant chief, brought you in. You had a unique skill set because you knew how to fix problems because you were the problem.
Yeah, I was the problem. Now I'm the solution. What that simply means, I was in gangs in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York. I was a pretty bad guy, and I enjoyed doing what I do until, as my father would say, bigger gun, a faster draw came along, a bigger gang, and they began to assassinate some of my friends. And I had to do the humbling thing and let my mom know that I was involved in the problem and somebody's looking for me. And
you had a hit on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call it hit, bag, whatever. And I found out I had relatives in a place called Nate Hunter, Georgia. An Aunt Willie Mae, and she still remembers it. She's in her 90s now. And they sent me there to hide me out. And again, when I relocate people, I know the struggles. You know, when I was talking about the birds, you can't take a city sicko, Vic, and put him in the woods of Nate Hunter, Georgia. You ever been to Nate Hunter, Georgia?
I have.
It's not.
Yeah, no, it's great, but yeah, it's not New York. Let's just say they're different, you know?
I got on 295. I got on US 1 and it ran to 295, and I found Orange Park. And I thought, this is a little better. Stayed there for a while, went to church, played with the church, played the games of the church, and then went back to visit home and ran into one of my runners.
Okay.
That would check the streets, make sure no cops are coming, mule drugs from one point to another. And I didn't have the courage to tell him that I wasn't doing it anymore. I was terrified. I think that's one of the things with inner city people. They feel like it's treason to tell their friends that I'm not involved anymore because I was there. And when I left him, I stood with him for 3 hours and wouldn't say a word. And when driving home, I thought, oh, I got a plan. I'm going to fly him here, get him in church, get his life changed. The same way if he listened to me on the evil side, maybe he'll listen to the good side. Called my brother and told him to go across the street and get him. He said, man, they shot him 7 times, 2 times in his chest, and they emptied the gun in his back because he wouldn't tell where he was at. That's when safe passage started. That's when custom notifications started. That's when I said, I'll never let another person die on my watch. That's where I knock on the door and say, keeping you safe, alive, and out of prison. That's why I say, don't lie to me because your lie could take your life. That's why I say, don't trust me yet because I don't trust you. Let's build a relationship. That's why I can put up with them cussing me out because it's a lie. I don't want them to die. That's why I can put up with the filming and the late nights and going out and going here and begging some philanthropist, can you give me $1,000 to send a kid out? You don't have no underwear. That's why, because I never forget. Most people say, man, you need to forget that. That's my passion. Your passion is driven by your pain. If you don't have nothing to die for, you have nothing to live for. Are you going to get killed when you go out there? So what? I'm living my life, man. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to do this and keep doing it and keep doing it. And now I'm at a point where I got to write about it while it's all in my head. It's a whole lot of years. So I'm writing something called GVI, Stopping the Next.
Exactly. So the customs notifications are one things that we're going to get into. And we have some footage that we can show. We've been out there. In fact, millions of people have been able to see what you do thanks to some collaborations with media outlets. One in specifically would be Peter Santinello on YouTube. Probably close to 8 million people got to see the strategy and got to see it. And I'll tell you, we heard from folks all across the world about how incredible it is and how awesome it is that this is here in Jacksonville and people are looking to replicate it in their cities as well. I know that you came from a challenging past, so you're not somebody that's just coming in there and preaching and saying, do this, this, and this. You are somebody that I can see has walked in the same shoes as a lot of these troubled children, these young men and women.
Well, in essence, it's me helping me. Yeah. They are me, so that keeps me burning. It's a passion that I have to keep going. Most people don't understand that a work is 9 to 5. You go home and you retire from work. From a job, but a work is never ending. It's something, a natural ability that you have. When I'm home, I think about how to do it better. When I'm on vacation, I think about how to do it better because I don't want to lose another life. This is what I do, and I love what I do. When I love what I do, when you love what you do, it's not work to you. One thing I really want you to get into, they had a tip of the iceberg at the custom notification. It was what happens after the custom notification that brings sustainability with the clients that we can actually save their lives and impact the next generation.
Right. It's contagious and it's that domino effect, and you either have the good domino effect or the bad domino effect.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah. So we want to talk about after the fact. Miss Kelly, you're out there day in and day out working with it. We're working with this team of pastors and police because the gang unit works closely there. So it's really interesting to see, the pastors and the civilians and the support and the resources walking alongside the detectives and the investigators that work to keep these streets safe. So give us a little bit more of that process. So you knock on the door, try to get in touch with these people who are either potential shooters or at risk of becoming victims of shooters. And a lot of times there's some intermingling there, right? What happens there? There's a pamphlet.
Well, actually, there's a letter that comes from Sheriff T.K. Waters. That's very important to note. When we do show up at the door, of course, we have a commander. Right now, it's Commander Jordan Dowling. And he goes up and just makes a spill to the person that we're looking for or their parent if they're under 18. And then they just inform them that, hey, listen, you're getting yourself in some trouble. You're inserting yourself in the wrong kinds of things, but we're here to help. They explain that, and then they say, here's this group behind us. Pastor Garland Scott is the manager of outreach and support, and he's going to talk to you. Are you willing to talk to him? And if they say yes, Pastor Garland Scott goes up, and of course, he can give you a little bit more information about that. I'm usually there.
Why don't you ask Brenda? Let's get to the real deal. Ask Brenda. Brenda is a pretty girl that worked in government for a long time, and all of a sudden, she's working in this population. Why don't you ask Brenda when she first came on board what she experienced? Because it wasn't a door board.
Right.
She didn't hit on a door. She was actually involved in an intake, which happens after they call back if they want some assistance.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
What was that? Tell us about that.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor Garland. I appreciate that. Actually, he was stationed at the state attorney's office, and he asked me to come over. I went over. We went to a conference room, and they did, once again, when you have a lot more information about this as this goes on, a custom notification, an intake in there. A really tiny little guy comes in. His mother is already in there. He comes in, he's wearing a hoodie. He turns his back to everybody. So you knew right away he wasn't interested in anything
he's not
anybody in
playing
the room
ball.
has to say, right? But he was given a spill. Garland gave him some information and told him, hey, listen, you can turn your life around. His mother was very worried about him. After everything happened, Garland walked outside with him. I'm told that when they got outside, he kind of threatened Garland. And of course, some of the members of the gang unit were there, and they weren't going to let that happen. But my experience, and let me say, I came from corporate America, and I also worked in government. So,
and world-renowned musician.
Anyway, you would say that, but that's my background. So this was something totally different for me. But what I will say is that once I swallowed everything and got myself together, I could see that this was something that with this strategy, you can create the change that you want to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bought in, and I'm on board. I've been here for 3 years working with Garland and Ricky Thomas and Russell Williams, of course, from the community. And it's a pleasure to be able to do this work and just make a difference.
Yeah. The hope and the hammer.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You would like them to take the hope approach. The hope would be hey, we'll get you the resources. We'll get you out of here. The hammer is, hey, look, if you keep doing this, you're going to end up in prison or
dead.
Right.
Dead. And why sugarcoat it?
Right.
And Vic, what they don't see, I'm trying to get them to we get cussed out a lot after the custom notification. They will call you back. We have a large callback percentage, but the first call is not, hi, thank you for coming to my door. It's you no good, and you this, and you bring those cops, and they tell you out, and you have to have a tolerance that it's not going to bother you. That's why I'm helping me. If I needed help, I would vent out like that. We call it in psychology a fish drowning, when they just venting.
Yeah.
The person is trying to help them. And once we get past all of that, then we still need this guy, the community side, to help with different resources and stuff.
Yeah. So let's jump that bridge. Let's go over to you, Pastor Russell. You're big in the community. You're at all the events. You're loud spoken. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Your voice is heard a lot, right? Tell us about that, because you don't work for JSO, but you work alongside JSO to provide those resources. How do you bridge the gap?
Well, let me just say this. I was just thinking while he was talking, one thing I enjoyed about this program, when I first come on board, I was not bought in. And one thing, he wasn't even sheriff at that time. I think he was an assistant chief. And he used to take me into his office. I come out.
We're talking about TK Waters, by the way.
Yeah.
Sheriff TK Waters.
TK Waters. And I used to, in my neighborhood, I always tease him, let him know, hey, I come from a neighborhood. We got a name in my neighborhood. But, and we didn't like the police. So I had a very reserved about the police.
You didn't like the police?
I didn't like the police.
In other words.
We didn't like the police. We didn't like the police. So, but coming through his experience and him bringing me into the office and saying, let me show you a different perspective. Let me just let you see what they're not saying. The media is saying one thing, but let me show you what really happened. And when he started opening up my mind to that, it was an aha moment, So I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna go out on the streets with these guys and see what this is all about. So I began to go out on the streets with the guys, and I realized, man, one thing I found out, they want to do the same thing I want to do. Go home every day and be with my family. And I realized that the police in this blue, they just like we are. They're human. They bleed like we do. They have the same issues we have, and they just want to go home, be with their family as well. So when I found that to be the case, I realized, man, I can work with this. And that's when I got involved and wanted to do anything I can with the police in the community that we reside in.
Okay. So when you did that initially in a community that you said doesn't necessarily like and trust the police, did you get pushback?
Oh, you get a lot of pushback. First off, they looking at your community first, looking at you real strange first off.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of pushback. But one thing about this is that I enjoy. When we first started it, Garland used to speak, and I tease him about that because he used to say, we got all these resources. We really didn't have the resources, but he was kept speaking that. And as time came on, people started coming on board. So what am I trying to say is because of him continuously doing it, people bought into it and realized that it is really a good project, a good initiative to be in, a real good strategy to be involved with. So that's when the resources start coming, when they found out we're going to do it with the resources or without the resources. So yes, that's what made it strong.
And what resources can you bring?
What we bring a resource. One thing that we do is we got this thing where we come in with the pastors. We asking a lot of our pastors now to identify themselves as being on board with this initiative, with this strategy. And we put our sign on our door. So if anyone that in these various communities need assistance, they can always reach out to these pastors, knowing that it's a safe place.
Yeah.
So
and that's Operation Safe Passage
Yes.
with
Operation
the
Safe
signs, and you
Passage.
might see them at local places of worship, all different denominations.
Yes. So, and that's a good thing. And that's where, so the kids can know, anyone that's in trouble can know, we can go here and be safe. And we just notify. We're not trying to turn no one else in. All we're trying to do is provide them a safe passage.
Okay. So they come to somebody like you that's been trained, or some of your, fellow pastors. You kind of know the resources, you know what's out there, and they, might not actively be in your church, but their grandparents do, or they grew up going to your church, or that's the church that they, walk to school in front of, something like that. So they feel a little bit better than maybe going to the police station and say, hey, I don't like where I am. I'm somehow being chased by gang members, right?
Right. And then that's when we can get in touch with the people need to be in touch. So that's just a way that we can be that liaison to touch the people, to help them and provide what sources and resources they need.
Okay. So Garland, I remember seeing you grow out Operation Safe Passage, and it started small, along with most things, and now it just continues to flourish. And there's a lot of pastors all over the city of Jacksonville. How many do we have now? How many people are involved, would you
38,
say?
and I think about 17 or 18 doors are sealed.
Okay.
That mean sealed mean they've been through 3 custom notifications to build relationship and rapport with law enforcement. Because a lot of people say they want to partner, but when they get in there, it's unless the eagle's wings are properly proportioned, the bird don't fly. You have to know what is required of you. After the 3 custom notifications, there's a day-long training on to be cautious of toxic giving, because sometimes pastors' greatest weakness is they give away everything, and they're enabling the person that we're trying to help. They learn reflective listening, how to hear what they're saying, so the guy don't got to keep saying, you hear what I'm saying, you hear what I'm saying. So they learn a lot of stuff. And after that, we vet them. They got to talk to a high-ranking officer to see if we can trust them. We don't need you to go out and spoil everything that we're doing. Once that's done, you're part of the family of Operation Safe Passage. Now, why did we start this? It's amazing how we started it. It was just me, again, and Assistant Chief Waters. And I was helping a young man for about 5 months. And on my paperwork, he said, don't lie to me. Have you ever been in any crime? And he said no. So I brought him to our main building, Police Memorial Building. And the security guard stopped him and said, there's a warrant for his arrest. So he said, I don't know what to do. He's with you. So I called my boss, and he said, let him lock him up. I said, wait a minute. We've been helping this guy. We're just going to give him away? He said, you work for the sheriff's office. Why don't you get one of your pastor friends to help him? They can help him while you're waiting for him to process. So I called a pastor up and said, could you go to court with this guy? And he did. And another pastor I called, he didn't know what he was doing. So after a while, I said, wait a minute, I got to train these guys to help them. So that is a safe place when they're working with us and they reoffend or they get in trouble, we don't drop them.
Right.
We pass them on to the safe passage pastor. And if they're in that district, we have them all over the city. They're not just in one place. They're in District 1. We have a District 1 pastor, and they can connect to that person until they prove themselves to come back and get a hold of us. So it's really, really an amazing part that most people don't know about. They only know the door knocking and that, oh no, that's just the beginning. When that door is open and they call back, that's when we got to really get to work.
Well, and it's the relationship building and you know, building that trust. I think, you know, you have the quote, I don't trust you and you don't trust me.
I have 2 rules. Don't ever lie to me. If you lie to me, I'm gone. I'm ghost. Number 2, don't trust me yet because I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Let's build a relationship. There's no rehabilitation without a relationship. We get to the point now, we've been working with some of them now, we can tell them, be quiet, shut your mouth, go sit down. And they'll laugh it off because the relationship is built. They know that when we say it, it's based on love. We only want the best for them. Now that's after them cussing us out, saying they're lawyers, the moms and dad telling us we're no good, going through their house, helping with their babies. I mean, it's just, you know, it takes 6 months to bring an actual person to normality. Because when you plug them back to the system, you find out they have health issues, they have financial problems, they have no driver's license, they have back child support. So when you start plugging them in, they're like, oh my, I don't know what to do. I'm going to quit. Then you got to call a Russell. And then Brenda has to constantly go out and find more resources to who's going to connect so we can immediately within 24 or 48 hours get them some assistance.
So
Because they have a lot of needs. You know, I'm not sure if you touched on that or not, but when we do those intakes, many times there might be needs with a person that we initially started with, but there's a lot of times a family there. One time we visited a family and there was a young woman there. She was a very young woman. I'm not sure if she was even 18 yet, but she had just had a baby. So as we were talking to the young man who we were in pursuit of course, she says, well, I need help. You know, and that's why we are always constantly in search of whatever resources are available so we can do what we call wraparound services. And we want to wrap those services around the entire family or the entire group that's involved. So we do a lot more than people actually realize. And I'm so happy that Garland is here and that he's talking about how deep this strategy actually goes, because he likes to call it a strategy as opposed to a program. And he can expound on that as well. I want to take that over, but it's just something that's really unique. It's really something that can make an impact. And I think probably too, if you touch on the situation about the crime rate being affected by what we do, by the work we do. And when we hear that, that's rewarding to us. I love my job. I came from corporate America. I came from government, and now I'm doing this. I never would have thought I'd be here. I love what I do because we are affecting change.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Yes.
And we talk about these resources. It could be as much as relocation. I know that you know, I've seen you speak with people several states away where you've gotten them jobs and housing and resources, and you're not just putting them on a bus, right? I mean, they're
in order to
falling into good hands.
In order to do a relocation, it's a very strategic. You can't send a person out unless you have a receiving in, and you have to go and prepare that receiving in. It's something so simple as probation, but the city has to receive that person. You know, when we started, Vic, this is the hard stuff. We named this the hard behind the scenes stuff because everybody used to that knocking. We had to, when Sheriff Mike Williams was here, Melissa Nelson asked me to relocate a guy. A credible witness. He did everything to help him solve a high profile crime. And I was going to relocate him to a city in Detroit. But they had a meeting here after I set everything up because nobody was doing relocation in the whole United States. I'm researching everything online. I'm checking different networks. Russell was with me through that process. So finally, I found somebody in Detroit that will take him. They had a sheriff's meeting here, and the chief came to talk to sheriff. And as they was walking out, she said something to him that inflamed me to go to the next level. She said, "Hey, Garland's sending a shooter to my city in Detroit. How about I send you a raper and a murderer since we're swapping off like that?"
That was true.
And Sheriff Mike Williams didn't like that, and I was angry for him that he even had to go through that. So I told him, we're not sending anybody to Detroit anymore. He said, what's wrong? I said, let me go back to the drawing board. So what I created was a mirror. I'm not going to send to your city what I don't want to out in our city. And I adjusted everything with that paperwork. And I said, all right, if they go there, they're going to have this and have that and have this and have that. And then I made a list of how serious is it? How is it really a high risk for them to stay? And once we got all of that settled, I have to go to that city, receiving city, and go talk to that city. Will you take Vic?
Right.
Will you bring him in? Well, I don't want him in here. He's going, no, we got him. He's going to do all right. Then we got to find a place for him to stay. Then we have to go there and walk him through because they don't know anything. That's the same thing I had to go through. When I came from New York City, relocated, I was terrified with Jacksonville, Florida. First thing that scared me was the Danes Point Bridge because it had 2 silos with faces on it. I'm like, what is that? And then everybody went home at 8:30 at night. Nobody was outside. I was used to everybody outside in New York. So I was and then I ended up in the worst part of the city thinking it was a nice part. And nobody walked me through anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know a number one thing in the city was a car. I'm used to public transportation.
Right.
So I walked miles and I didn't know it was this hot here. So, you know what I mean?
About the mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds.
I seen 2 bugs stuck together flying around. I'm like, what is
Love
that?
bugs.
Nobody ever told me that. One night I was chased by a raccoon. I went to vacuum my car.
Yeah.
So you have to help them geographically. If I'm sending them to New York, you need a coat. One guy told me, I don't need no coat. I can handle it. Man, it's going to get cold. This is not Florida.
You don't need the code now, but you will.
You got to work
Right.
through all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And then when you relocate them, you got to pray that it sticks. Because the
Absolutely.
most Velcro sticky stuff in the world is that gang life.
Yeah.
You get them all the way there and the magnet pulls them back after you did all of that work. And it's just out the window.
So this is for everybody, and feel free to each chime in because you all have different backgrounds, different perspectives. But what is it that draws people in our city to the gang life?
Oh, see, as I told people, that's one question I couldn't answer, Vic, because one time Pastor Scott and I had to go to and speak with some kids, and he telling all the kids about the bad things he did in life, and all I did,
Yeah.
my mom, if my mom say, hey, don't do this, guess what?
You're not.
I didn't do it. But if his mom told him don't do it, guess what?
He did.
I'm gonna do it. So I gotta bring that up. So what I'm saying, what brings you into the crime life, into the gang life? I think everybody's looking for identity. And I think that's one thing. Everybody is looking to identify with something. But that something gotta be something that's positive and not negative. Everybody want to be in a fraternity. Everybody want to be in some type of an organization. So they're just looking for identity. But is it going to be a positive identity? Is it going to be an identity that are helping the community that we live in, or someone that's destroying the community that we live in?
Right.
So my thing is, what draw you to the gang life is well, I know what it is because of my training, and it's nothing but one thing, and that's just this sin, but that's a whole nother ball game right there. But people are looking to identify, but we got to give them something positive to identify with.
Sure. Whether that's good parenting or guardians or just role models, teachers, coaches.
Well, what happens, like he said, most people in gang or group violence are becoming what they behold. What they see. And we're talking about generations of this. They become what they behold. It can even be a video game. Parents tell my son don't go nowhere. He stay in that room.
Right.
He go all over the world on his worldwide internet.
Absolutely.
And what he see, even today, if you shoot somebody, you got to put it out, and it's just perpetual, just looking and see. That's why I'm trying
100%,
to, our whole goal now, our new strategy is to stop the next. How did stop the next? Because we got videos and stuff of young parents, 21, 23 years old, with a 3-year-old trying to get him to smoke a blunt, inhale, putting gold on him, putting him on, buying him expensive stuff, trying to let him know, and they're creating the next. So we got to stop the next and expose them to something different.
If they're open to it. And that's what Garland usually says at the door. It's also on the letter that they get. The choice is yours.
Mhm.
But I wanted to also mention too, one morning we were going out on a custom notification, and an African American community leader was with us, and we headed south.
Mm.
And he looked at me and said, "BK, I thought we were going to head to the north side." And that is what is not what reality is. Although a number of them are on the north side.
Yeah.
They're not all on the north side, and they're not all brown people,
Yeah.
and they're not all male, and they're not all 15, 16, 17, 18, because we've had some as young as
12.
12 years old.
Yeah.
So,
Shooters.
yeah. And,
yeah.
and actually, there was a young lady who actually lived on the tip of Riverside and Avondale, and, you know, had really wonderful parents who were professional people. She was inserting herself into that life as well. And she's Caucasian. I'm only mentioning that because of what I just said.
Sure.
That it was not all brown people. I mean, wonderful family, but she was exchanging information between two rival gangs.
Mm.
I asked her, I was like, what is it? Why would you do this? You have great parents. You have a great life. She said, because I thought it was cool.
Yeah. It's glamorized. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's the money, it's the parties, it's everything else. And I think that's great perspective
Yeah.
that you can't just say, oh, this is the gang member and
Right.
they're between this age and this
Right.
age and they look like this and they live
Right,
here.
Right. And everybody on every side of town should be concerned.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And by concerned, we mean invested.
Yeah.
Invested
about
in
our
the best.
community.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Going to bring Ricky
Yeah,
up?
yeah. We gotta bring in another guest, the star of the show. They're all the stars, but
Turn your phones off. Phones.
Ricky Thomas. Hey, thank you.
Pretty Ricky, that's what
Ricky,
they
that's
call
good.
him.
Pretty Ricky,
Yeah,
I know.
That's
yeah.
what they call him.
Hey.
I guess we don't have to follow all the rules on this podcast. You know,
Yeah.
a little bit
I-
here
you
and
know,
there.
I
We can
want-
have fun.
Yeah,
Pretty
want
Ricky.
I want them to know what we do behind the scenes, because all we have is that knock. They don't know when we get cussed out.
Right.
They think, oh man, they doing such a great job. Today we had somebody that called back, and the mom, we call her Big Mama. She said, well, I'm tired of y'all pulling over my son. He ain't do nothing. I said, ma'am, it's who he's hanging with.
Mhm.
And then she said, well, I don't like the police and this and that. And I'm just waiting till she get through all of this. And sometimes it takes time. And then when she finished and she's convinced, what's the next thing she said? Well, I got another kid here. I got somebody. Can you get these other
go.
ones too?
Okay. So it's a process, right?
Yeah.
But it goes back to that, like you lay down with dogs and you wake up with fleas.
Absolutely.
And if you're hanging out with the bad people in that bad crowd, eventually, you know, you're
You're going to die.
Yeah.
you're part of it.
You're going to die or go to
100%.
jail. And that's what we've learned to tell the parents that now.
Mhm.
I ain't in no gang. I ain't hold on now. They're not making a mistake.
Right.
One tried to jump on you verbally today.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Oh.
One of the things that I'm honoring all of these voices for is we all are telling the same story. You have a choice to choose, a chance to choose your own choice.
Yeah.
That's volumes. Because now you're putting it right back in their lap and saying, hey, you want to keep going down this road or you want to go on a new road? The young man thought, you don't know who I'm hanging with? I said, sir, we're not here to argue with you. That's not where you're. We're here to help you see a new way, a fresh start. It's an opportunity. And so when you get an opportunity, I don't think everybody realizes the value of somebody offering you an opportunity to change.
Mhm.
When do you know the police come to your house to bring change?
Yeah.
For you to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Think about
Oh,
what
they'll
I'm
bring
saying.
some kind of
You
change.
know what I mean? Yeah.
You
When they're
know?
all nervous, that's that hammer.
Right.
You got to let them know.
Yes.
it's
No,
serious.
yeah, and I mean these customs notifications. I mean, JSO and the partners roll deep. You know,
They roll deep.
It's intimidating at first if you don't know
Yeah.
what's going on.
But I
Right.
love it.
Yeah,
I love
Yes.
it. I mean, the more intimidated it is, the more you're inclined to say, help me.
Mhm.
Because we have the same message as law enforcement. We want to keep you safe, alive, and out of prison. And we will not tolerate violence in our community anymore.
Right.
So when the police say that, oh, the popo mad at us, we come and say the same thing. We're here to keep you safe, alive, and out of prison, and we will not tolerate it either. But today is your lucky day.
Absolutely.
The choice is yours.
100%.
If you don't call me back, I have never called. No, I called one time. I've in 9-10 years, I've never called anybody back. You have to call me, but Ricky convinced me to call somebody back. And
Why was that?
Because at the moment, the particular person that was involved, I really felt like Garland really felt their heart. And the intent was, we want to win you. This one thing I don't think a lot of people talk about with us. We hate losing. We want to win lives, man. We don't want to go to funerals. We want people to live. These are kids.
Yeah.
We want to see them live a successful, long life like we're aiming to do.
They're all at risk for those bullets. Bullets don't discriminate.
And we tell them that
Do not.
today's victim is tomorrow's shooter.
Absolutely.
And the boy told me, I called him up. You expect me to bow down and kiss your
Kiss
feet?
your feet.
I don't want no help. You sent me that racist letter. You targeted me. I said, man, if somebody was trying to kill
Your
my
mama.
mama, I'll bow down and kiss their feet.
Right.
I said, I want to serve notice on you right now. You won't never hear from me again. And you have a nice day. And I hung up. I didn't say it cute like that,
Yeah.
but I didn't use any profanity. But I went off because we're up to over 1,200 doors.
237.
And you're going to argue with me?
1,237
doors.
As of today,
as of today.
I added 4.
Wow. That's cool.
That's where we at.
That's cool. And what's the success rate for callbacks?
40% still. Today we was hitting hard today.
Yeah.
Today was 4 for 5. We didn't have 5, but the parents said, help my other kid too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we hit every door was good, and already 2 people called back and it turned into 3 today already.
Okay.
So we hit good today.
So where does the money come from to do this? Like, obviously it's not free to take somebody in, to take them places, to send them this and that.
You have partners
Okay.
that you go out and solicit funds that have compassion, that want to help. Pastor Russell Williams that was here, he contributed to the first relocation we ever did. And it was scary because I got there and the credit cards didn't work. And I'm out in the street with this shooter and I called Russell, you got to send some money. And he sent some money, but different philanthropists and our stakeholders, they contribute. And saying, okay, who you got next, we'll see. And we add it up. And sometimes it gets very costly to send them out. And the pastors go with us on a trip to take them. We put them in the car. One, I had to fly and I flew with him, but the other one, we put him in the car together and we drove him to his location and we got him there and we stayed 3 days for him to get settled because it's a lot of readjusting. You just can't drop a person in another city and leave them. They
Peace out. Good luck.
No, we don't do
you
that.
can't do
We
that.
take them to the store, see if they know how to shop,
Right.
And then you find out a lot of them. We took one to, I took one to a Zaxby's. He wanted an orange soda. And he went to the machine. He came back fussing and drunk water. And I got on the plane. I said, why you didn't get a soda? He says, too many buttons on that machine. I don't know how to work it. I said, you never been to the Zaxby's before? Every day, but you don't go inside when they're looking for you. I don't go inside and sit down and eat. What, you want me to get shot? So
When they looking for you, you're talking about the rivals, the gang members, the
When
ops.
are looking
the
for
ops,
you.
yeah.
You don't go learn nothing.
Okay.
You just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, we're just very fortunate that we have a nucleus of pastors with Safe Passage,
Sure.
that they are so giving and caring about the community and what happens to these young people, mostly young people. Although I think, Ricky, you had one that was in his 40s at one
we
time.
had a couple of them.
Yeah,
in the
Ricky's
last
a
6
program
months.
coordinator,
you know.
so he keeps up with these clients.
caseload.
But we, we just and we want to say publicly how much we appreciate our Safe Passage.
Pastors.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. It takes
No.
that village, right?
No, we can't do it without UNF Shands. We can't do it without Tulsa Weldon.
Oh, Tulsa
We
Weldon.
can't do it
Yeah.
without Work Source.
Absolutely.
We have so
Goodwill,
many
all that.
partners. We can't do it without
Yeah.
Kids Hope
Oh,
Alliance, Partnership for Child
Partnership
Care.
for Child Care.
And they offer
Child Health.
and they all of these partners and they roll with us, Vic. What happened before Brenda and Ricky came along, I've knocked on about 150 doors and we only go to the person that's on my custom file. But a lot of times he's not here, but I got 7 more kids that's
Right,
tearing it up.
right.
I got 5 more kids and they bad.
Right,
Come
right,
on,
right,
teacher.
Right.
But I didn't have no way to help them. So we created a partnership with Partnership Child
Child Health.
Health.
Yeah, okay.
Where we
Kids
brought on a
Hope
guy,
Alliance.
Corey O'Neill. So when we
Right.
go to the door and they said, we got 2 other kids. Corey and Antoinette steps up
Antoinette Martin.
Yeah.
and we get them in there
Superstar.
and they
Yeah.
process.
They
I
both
think
are,
last year they did 350 kids.
Wow. Wow.
We have
That's
strong
incredible.
partners.
With
Yeah,
Denver
I just saw
Baptist
Corey got
School.
honored by the FBI for
Yes, he
for,
did.
for his work.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
You guys were in the picture too, but
Yeah.
yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. That's incredible.
It
So,
was an honor.
Yeah.
He deserved it very
oh
much.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I looked at the few times I've been out with him. I mean,
Yeah.
that man gets to work.
He's extraordinary for
Mm.
sure.
Mm.
Yeah, and so is Antoinette. Antoinette is with the Inspire program, which is under the umbrella of Partnership for
Yeah.
Child Health.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of support. From the door is fun, the knock is good, but afterwards, that's why I tell me, don't try this at home. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're gonna try to help somebody,
Mhm.
and you tell them to put up the gun and stop shooting, and you don't have nothing for them.
Right.
That's why, Vic, what we do with the pastors, we don't call Pastor Russell Williams, or they don't call me Pastor Garland. I'm Garland in the streets or Switzerland in the streets. We found out that over the years, this is my 30-something year doing violent reduction, and I found out that a lot of people of faith went out and made promises that they did not keep. Or another thing, I had struggles with returning citizens. Pastors and faith leaders will have prison ministries and stuff, and they're very active inside.
Mm.
But when they get released, they go ghosts. So anybody that work with me, we strip their titles.
Right.
So they go to the door as Russell and Garland and Sammy. It's no bishop, it's no pope, it's nothing. We're all the same, here to keep you safe, alive, and out of prison. Now, when we transfer them to their church, they can be whatever they want because that's their ground. And we
Yeah.
knew that building would never go anywhere. That's why we picked safe passage houses, not for them to stay, because that's going to stay stable no matter what happens.
Mhm.
Mm. I love it. I love it. And it's just being humble and getting down on their level. I think it's about time. I told you this was going to take about 20 minutes. We've
Fine.
got about an hour over, but
We have fun.
it was fun. No, I love it. I love it. And I feel so inspired, and we're so lucky because, there's so many cities that don't have this. And look, when we had that gigantic drop, by more than 50% in murders and homicides in 2024, and right now here in 2026, we're looking really good. There's a lot of work to be done. One death, one murder is one too many.
Too many.
Yes.
But we are looking at very, very promising numbers that could potentially, if it continues to go according to plan, could potentially be lower than even 2024, which was a monumental year. So I want to ask two things, okay? Number one is, you're a parent, you're a guardian, you're a teacher, you're a mentor, you're something, you got a kid that needs these resources, that needs that safe passage. What's the thing to do right now for them?
You have to call the number. But let me say this. Spy on your kids.
Yeah.
See what your
Yes.
kids are
Yes.
doing. They're children. Don't be their friend. See what they are doing.
Don't
Did you
ignore
train
it.
my mother?
Huh?
She's CIA over there on me, growing up.
You're not an adult until you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know why they just give these kids so much power. Because we go to some houses, Vic, you done got me started again, where the kids
sweating.
the kids be telling the moms,
Well, shut up.
Yeah.
stop this acting, get out of here.
Yeah.
Y'all don't need to be around here. And we like, oh my God, help us, Lord. We got to pray then for that.
Yeah.
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 But they get parents, guardians, watch your kids, see what they're doing, watch their friends, do a background check on their friends with yourself. Don't put your guards down. But if they're going astray, we'll see if we can help them. If we can't help them, we can refer them to somebody, because we mostly go after the violent ones.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. But there are the resources for the
Yes, it
in-betweens.
is. There's no excuse. There's
All right.
resources everywhere.
So we'll put that number up. We'll get that.
Okay.
Number two, okay, maybe you just feel inspired and you have resources, whatever it is, a space, or some sort of mental health training, or some counseling or behavioral background, or money, and resources. What's the best way to get involved? You talked about toxic giving. What's the best way to get involved?
Resources, you can contact Legacy. We
Okay.
can put money in Legacy to help us. Okay.
Yeah. Legacy Foundation is a nonprofit that supports a lot of sheriff's office programs for perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And counselors, mental health, all of that. We just want you to go through our training so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
That's it. We welcome all. We need more
Yeah.
because it's growing, especially what you just did by saying, I'm going to put the number up.
Oh, my bad.
Like, whoa, hold on, because we get here from the state attorney's office, we get from the police department, homicide, burglary, everybody calls us.
If you buy me lunch, I'll get rid of that part. We'll cut it out.
I'm going to buy you lunch anyway.
Mhm.
But you do whatever the sheriff
No,
wants you to
no,
do.
no.
But we have a large army with the passes, and we want to keep them working.
Yeah, and we want everybody to know if you want to contribute in whatever way, especially if you're a pastor and potentially part of Safe Passage. Garland mentioned it earlier that you're not doing this work by the seat of your pants. In other words, you are trained and prepared so you can deal with this kind of population. And
Yeah.
that's a really good thing. It's a very in-depth training and it's very well worth it.
Yeah.
You have to have a heart for it too.
Absolutely.
You-
One of
ahead.
the other keys is with our pastors. We don't just want you to say, "Oh, you're a pastor, you're a part of us." We build a relationship with them
Yeah.
because they need to have that solid foundation too to say, "Hey, I'm not here by myself." You know, we shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
team to team. We all really want to see our city, not just our neighborhood. This is our city. We live here.
Yeah. We're all
We want it
connecting.
safe a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
connecting.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
connecting
Yeah.
and making change. We're all
Another-
connecting to our own humanity.
Another
And
thing
that's
with
what's going
the
on.
pastors that you need to know. We don't necessarily need the pastor. We need your sheep. Okay. We need this from you. And you can bring your
to train.
parishioners to train. So you don't, we know you're busy, senior pastor, but you got people, Sister Johnson, Deacon Buckenhead, all of them that's sitting around want something to do.
Did you say
Bring
Deacon
them. Buckethead, I'm just making up a name.
Common spelling.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Vic McAloo.
Okay, so listen, I just want to say thank you to you all. Thank you, Russell over there behind the cameras. You know, look, as somebody that did grow up in Jacksonville, born and raised, and you know has chosen to stay here. You know, I remember being in news, being a news reporter, especially when I was working weekend nights, where we would have to decide which homicide to go to because there were that many to cover. You know, it was like, oh, there's 3 homicides at the same time, and you're one reporter, and you're like having to decide it, and like that's crazy. That's terrible.
crazy.
That's not what we want.
That's crazy and sad.
I have been able to see, and I'm not just saying that now that I work at the sheriff's office, but I have been able to see that has dropped. Again, one is way too many, but we're certainly not there like we were, you know, in those days. And you know, I tell people this all the time. I think a large part of that, if you were to look at some of the reasons why, is what you all are doing. You know, it's not the only part. A lot of pieces to that puzzle, a lot of tools in the toolbox.
Yes, sir.
But a large part of that success here in Jacksonville is a small group of men and women right here.
Thank you.
So
Vic, you got to put this in. Sheriff T.K. Waters did 450 of these custom notifications. He was the one that architected and said, we're going to go forward with it.
yeah, he started it. He saw it, and that was just one part of the vision. You know, there's obviously the technology. There's obviously the targeted prosecution.
Yes, sir.
You know, there's the databases. There's everything else that helps with those numbers. But you know, the sheriff had his hand in that. The sheriff had his hand in this, and ultimately, it's cool to see it full circle from when he was an assistant chief and starting it, probably having no idea that he would be the sheriff, and that everybody would be sitting here to talk about the successes. But you know.
And thank you for getting it out. You're the first one that ever interviewed me. I thank you.
I had to break him down.
Yeah.
I was there.
Oh, here he comes. There was a reporter. What do they
Hey,
want?
listen.
Oh
I
no.
found out he was just really super cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Vic's all right.
Is Vic all right?
Vic's
our man.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody?
Let's go. All right, we're gonna cut all this out. Don't worry. Cut.